nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all. It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. Hello everyone, so glad to see you all. Welcome back everyone to another Midday Monologue Monday. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G, and I'm going to continuing, so to speak. Not only am I going to continue giving you some advice from my own shelves on how to build your board gaming shelves, but it's going to be a continuation, so to speak, of the last one I did. See, I broke from pattern last time, and instead of talking about it in categories the way I shelf things myself, like superhero games or historical games, Dungeons and Dragons games, and so on, I decided to tell you about one-player games. Well, now I want to recover very quickly a little thing that I covered there, and then have a discussion about two-player games. Games that are specifically for two players, and games that are not, but excel at two players. So why don't you join me down the table? I'll tell you my ideas, and in the comments, you can tell me yours. Hey, welcome back everyone. Now, sort of jumping off the heels of the last one, if I set up the drop order in proper order, building upon the last one, where I told you my thoughts on building your perfect one-player option board game collection, why don't we take a look at two-player option games? Specifically games that are made only for two players, but I am going to start off with a quick recap of the last episode for a specific reason, and then there's a couple of games that play more than two players, but I think shine with two players. I'm going to mention them also. But why don't we start off with a quick recap? Now, for the one-player games, I did mention a couple of games that were made for one player but had two-player options in them, and I want to count them here because they are such great games. But I've talked about them already in the last video, so if you go back and check building your solo or building your one-player board game collection, check that out. You'll be able to hear my thoughts on these. But Way of the Samurai, fantastic samurai one-on-one, whether that is the deck or the other opponent, one-on-one samurai combat game. Does a great job of capturing that feel. Robin Hood, Hero of the People, again, another one-player game that has a two-player option. This is different than playing the game. This almost has a unique, slightly almost unique-ish feel to the two-player game, with the head-to-head with the Sheriff's Revenge, because the sheriff character is going to be getting the chance to specifically play the cards from their hand that they want in order to deal all these problems to the Robin Hood player. The other two that I mentioned in this category from the last video is Arkham Horror the card game. Fabulous one or two player game. I think you can play four if you have two copies of the base game. But it's a wonderful two-player game that is going to, the cooperativeness of the two players trying to figure out and investigate everything is really amazing. I talk about it a little bit more in the other video, so if you want to know more, go check out the one-player video. And again, the last one is One Deck Dungeon, and the standalone sequel, Forest of Shadows. In these games, you're rolling dice, collecting sets of dice in specific orders to deal with the problems of the dungeon, the monsters, the traps, the levels themselves sometimes seem to come alive at you. So those are all fun two-player games that either are really one-player games or can handle one- and two-player games. But now I want to move on to some true two-player games. Games that were specifically made in mind for just this, okay? Now, the first two I'm going to talk about both come from Osprey Games. And they're both mythology-inspired, actually. So the first one I'm going to mention is Agamemnon. which is a fantastic head-to-head battle strategy game about the Trojan War. But you're not playing sides, so to speak. You have a side, Trojans or Greek, but you are playing the Olympians. And it is through the use of your power, manipulating certain strings of fate during the battle, that you are going to make your side victorious or not. It is a great variant idea on playing the Trojan War, something that would never have occurred to me or most other people I know to play it out this way. It has a fantastic feel. Thematically it does. It feels so right. Now the other one by Osprey, also a mythology game, is Odins Ravens. And in this game, the players are Hunin and Munin. I think I'm saying that right. The two ravens that Odin has, he sends out every day to go fly around the world and collect everything they see and come back, and at the end of the day sit on his shoulders and whisper in his ears the secret of the world. But you see, in this game, it got a little boring, so the ravens decided to make a race. Challenge each other each day. Who can get around the world and back to All-Father Odin the fastest? But Loki likes to be tricky, and he offers cards to both players that you're going to be able to use these Loki cards, and that will alter the field. The field is just a straight line of cards above another straight line of cards, and one raven on each flies around, flips to the other one, and comes back. So the Loki cards are really great because you can affect the flight path. But here's the thing. If you affect the flight path of your opponent, then when you go around back the other way, you're going to be having to deal with those same things. So be very careful how you use the Loki cards in this game. Tides of Madness is a Cthulhian-based sequel of sorts to Times of Tide, this card collection point gathering game of matches. This game is so beautifully rendered. I could just sit at the table and look at these cards alone. I can get lost in these cards while trying to make a decision. But it is a fairly intense two-player back and forth game, and eventually something's gonna win and appear. If you're getting a little tired of so many Cthulhu-based games, Tides of Madness, I think, is going to be different enough for you to enjoy having as a two-player game on your shelf. If you're looking for a little bit more sci-fi, we got Deathbot Derby is a great game by Royal End Games. Now, this can play 4 players, but even when it does play 4 players, it's team versus team, so it's still a 2 versus 2 variant, right? You start the game off by drafting and building your robot that you're going to send out into the field to destroy or try to destroy the other player's robot. So because of this, every game is going to have a more unique feel to it. Also, the fact that the board are all tiles, I love. It's all tiles that are both flip-sided and flip-ended, right? Both sides, front and back, and both ends, top and bottom, are all something different. So each card is 4 different parts of the field. And there's a great panic button mode. There's a great panic button mode I love, that when you press it, you roll the die, and every card that matches the number that you rolled flips. So in this purpose, it's also a bit of a memory game, because you want to remember where certain things are, like the heel or like the buzzsaw. Because if you're hurting and you know there's a heel under you, good time to flip. But then again, it's dependent on the number you roll, so you might not even get it. This is a really fun back and forth combat style game with robots that you build yourself. Go check out Deathbot Derby. Another great specific 2-player game is Judge Dredd Block War. This is by Gaiman Curry, and it's literally ripped from one of the most well-known, best-selling Judge Dredd story arcs of all time, the Block War. And in this game, you're not playing Dredd or Giant or Anderson or any of the judges. No, that's no fun. You are playing the perps, and your opponent is playing the perps. And you sit across from the table from each other, and you lay your cards out in a line in front of you, they in front of them. And that's your battling place. That's where the doors to the buildings are going to open up and close, and you're going to be able to make attacks. But meanwhile, there's a part I love. Meanwhile, that space in between you and your opponent, the street, that's where the judges are. And they're trying to put a stop to this. They want to end both of you. This game mentions upcoming expansions, and I hope they come through with it, because this is an extremely fun game to play one-on-one, as well as to create a round-robin sort of system and get the ultimate player determined in this game. So it's a fast-paced, combat-heavy, sci-fi franchise game you're looking for. Go take a look at Judge Dredd Block War. Now, there's a couple of games I want to bring up here right at the end that I think, even though they're not two-player specific games, I believe they shine. They really do shine. If you're looking to add games for two players to your collection, even though these are not specific, they're worth your looking into. Now, the first one I want to mention by WizKids is Batman, Gotham City strategy game. In this game, you are not playing Batman. No, the Bat is a problem, actually. You are playing one of the 4 supplied villains, and you are trying to rule Gotham City with your criminal empire. But not only are the other players getting in your way, but there's this jerk called Batman. And in between the turns, between you and your fellows, he keeps showing up, and he keeps wrecking shit on you. How inconsiderate, how rude. Well, not only do you have to deal with the other players, the other criminals in Gotham City, but you're going to have to deal with the Bat. This game does play up to 4 players. There's a lot of downtime I've found in this game. There is between player rounds. There's a certain slowness to this game as you approach the 4-player mark, which is why I think this game literally does shine as a 2-player game. Because remember, technically it's a 3-player, since Batman, the game is running Batman as a sort of NPC or non-player character. This works. If you're looking for a really good superhero 2-player game, like I said, even though this is a 2 to 4, it shines best as a 2-player game. So go, check out Batman, Gotham City strategy game. Now, along the exact same lines as that, I want to point out another game that I think really shines for all the same reasons, and that is Western Legends. This is a game set in the American Old West of the 1800s, where you literally get the chance to play real-life American icons from the Old West. You can play Pecos Bill, you can play Calamity Jane, you can play Bloody Knife, Wyatt Earp, Curly Bill, Ringo, Johnny Ringo. All of them are in it. And more are in the expansion Ante Up, and even more in the next expansion, Blood Money, which they say is also going to be the last expansion. Which also brings it to another good point I like about the game. There are expansions for this game with new characters, new rules, new cards, but they're not overdoing it. 2 big box expansions on Kickstarter, and in the original game kicked enough for 2 mini box expansions. The first big box expansion also got enough for a mini box expansion, and I'm betting the same thing's going to happen with Blood Money. And then that's it. They said that was the last expansion. Now, during this game, you don't have to play their lives out the way they historically were. You can do whatever you want. If you want to decide that Annie Oakley is going to be a cattle rustler, that's what she's going to do. Because this game is a sandbox game, and it allows you to approach their lives, earn victory points, pretty much however you want. If you want to be a gold miner, you want to be a bank robber, you want to be a lawman, you want to be an outlaw, you want to be a miner. There are all these, and you can mix and match it all up. There are so many things that you can do. This game does one of the best jobs a board game could possibly do in capturing the feel of you being in the Old West. Please check out Colossal Games' Western Legends. Now, for speed purposes, the last game I want to mention also fits in the same category. It's a multiplayer game, but because of certain game speed factors, I think it shines best as a 2-player adventure. And this is Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game by Fallen Dominion Studios. Now, when you play this game 2 players, it speeds things up, which is actually a good thing. the downtime is already managed a little bit similar to the way Merchants and Marauders manages their downtime. With a lot of the port things that you can do are usually done out of your turn. You know, you do everything else, set up your whole turn, do everything, and then you get into all those boring port things. Let the next player go. And this has that very similar feel that's set up to it, that even though there's a lot of downtime crap to do in the game, to manage and to keep track of, a lot of it can be done in between your active turns. And that's another reason why I think this game really shines as a two-player game. Because by the time my turn is over, I'm already starting, if there was any extra stuff I have to do, like town stuff, I get to do all of that while you're doing the core of your turn. By the time you're finished, I'm done and I'm ready to go again. There's like almost no break time in this when you play two players. And this game develops amazing stories. This is a story-driven game. Each card that you are encountering itself is a self-contained story. So much fun. I mean, literally one of my very, very top favorite games of all time. And it works best as a two-player game. So Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game by Fallen Dominion Studios. Add that to your game shelf if you're looking for great two-player games. Like I said, it plays more, but it shines as a two-player game. So those are my thoughts. Do you know any specific two-player games that are great and I didn't mention? You know what I mean. Games that were designed in the first place for just two players. And if you know of any other games that weren't designed, were designed for more players, but that you just honestly think they shine and they are best played with two players, well, put them in the comments. Let me know, let everyone else know, so we can experience these great games also. Don't keep them to yourself. All right, everyone. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming, and my friends, I am out of here.